convinced 10 college students to move to Wabash County for the summer and live in an RV on the Wabash River.
We're trying to attract tourism because that's where future residents come from. It all starts with a visit.
It starts with a visit.
But it's investing in our young people so that they feel Wabash County is a place to stay.
How do you guys promote and encourage your local residents to get out and be the best possible community members they can be? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. If you are looking for a summer camp that truly serves Indiana families, I want to tell you about Jameson Camp. They sit on 135 acres on the west side of Indianapolis with trails, ponds, a creek, a swimming pool, and adventure courses. For 98 years, they have focused on giving kids meaningful experiences in nature. What sets them apart is access and support. They offer generous financial aid to remove cost barriers. They keep group sizes small, and they have on-site behavioral health specialists that meet the needs of neurodivergent campers. It is designed to be a safe, welcoming space for every child. Summer Camp 2026 is now on sale, so you can register today. They also host field trips, corporate retreats, and have space available year-round for nonprofits, churches, and youth groups. Learn more today at jamesoncamp.org. My guest today is Alex Downard, and he is the president and CEO of the Community Foundation of Wabash County. Alex is an Indianapolis native and a graduate of Manchester University, and Alex has built his entire career around bringing people together to tackle challenges through the development of communities, with focuses in areas like housing, quality of life, and long-term community growth. At his core, he is an advocate for Wabash County and rural Indiana, with a focus on creating opportunities for communities to attract and retain residents. Today, we're going to get an overview of Wabash County and the insane innovations that have come out of there. We're going to dive into the work they've done the past few years to make Wabash County an innovative, awesome place to live, work, and play. And finally, we're going to round it out by talking about strategies that other rural communities can take to increase the quality of life in their hometown. Alex, welcome to Get In.
Nate, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Dude, okay, so this has been a conversation a long time in the making. I have heard so many people from Indianapolis particularly talking about there's this guy up in Wabash County doing these super innovative things that you need to talk to. And I was like, I know Wabash County, but it's not traditional that rural Indiana is making their circles in the Indianapolis business network. That's not necessarily the most common of things. Typically, especially in a place like Wabash, maybe that's popular in Fort Wayne or maybe like pushing into Warsaw, but not necessarily getting notoriety in the central Indiana area. So I'm excited to dive into, one, your journey and getting plugged into the Community Foundation in Wabash, and also diving into the crazy innovations that have come from Wabash. People need to know about there's a history of electric lights. There's a history of, I think, the thermometer and hot water, and maybe not thermometer, the thermostat and hot water and Honeywell. And so take me into, one, what makes Wabash historically relevant beyond the state of Indiana?
Yeah, thanks, Nate. I appreciate it. And I'm humbled to be on the podcast. I've been a huge fan, love what you're doing across the state of Indiana, and have gotten to listen to a lot of the episodes and the guests you've had. So truly, truly honored and humbled to be here on behalf of our entire community up in Wabash County. But Wabash County is truly a rural community, population of around 30,000.
So Wabash County, and the seat of Wabash County is Wabash, Indiana.
Yep. So the county seat is the city of Wabash, population of around 10, 11,000 people. Yep. And then we have the town of North Manchester, which is at the northern part of the county, which is between 5,000 and 6,000, home to the Manchester University Spartans. And then we have three incorporated communities, other incorporated communities that are all less than 1,000 people. And so that's the town of LaFountain, that's the city or the town of Rowan, and the town of Lagro.
Historic Rowan. The covered bridge is there, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So that gives us a good gauge of like the geography. But then Wabash, Indiana has been on the map for a long, long time. Talking about the history of innovation and science that's come out of Wabash.
Yeah. So the city of Wabash was truly the first electrically lit city in the entire world.
So you're talking about like electric street lights?
Absolutely. So the very first light was at the top of the courthouse, I believe. And I was not born and raised in the city of Wabash, so bear with me if I mess up any of our facts here. But the courthouse, they lit up the top of the courthouse, and people gathered around the city square to watch this first lighting.
Like, who was it? Like, who had the evil scientist laboratory in Wabash that was making this?
I am not sure.
That's like a crazy thing to be like, yeah, we're going to plug this up to the power grid and start. I don't even know if there was a power grid at that point. Probably not. But we're going to plug this in and start to light up the city. Yeah. So then was it just one light on top of the courthouse, or did that expand?
That's my understanding, was one light, and then over time expanded to street lights and lighting the entire city.
Wabash, Indiana became the first electrically lighted city on March 31st, 1880. On that night, 4 Charles Brush carbon arc lamps were installed atop the Wabash County Courthouse, powered by a 12-horsepower steam engine generator in the basement, illuminating the entire town. So imagine that, like, having 4 spotlights pointed in each direction, just like, and like at night, it's like all of a sudden you have light. Yeah. So not only is that going on, not only is there the first electrically lit city, but you also have the history of Mark Honeywell, I believe is his name.
Absolutely.
And the innovations that he had coming out of Wabash. What is the history of Mark Honeywell?
So Mark Honeywell began his business, and I believe is from Wabash County, Indiana. You'll have to fact check me on that too, Nate. But his foundation was founded and is still located in the city of Wabash.
Yeah. Yep. He was born in Wabash, Indiana. And they developed like some crazy cool things. Honeywell developed a hot water home heating system. And by 1905, he had installed the system in his house and is thought to be the first such system in North America. This is like the original thermostat.
Yeah, people would recognize that probably the most, right? You look at your thermostat, a lot of them have Honeywell on them, and that's from Mark Honeywell.
This is, Honeywell heating. By 1927, the annual company sales were more than 1.5 million, which in 1927 is a ton. 450 people worked in the Wabash factory. Like, that's great. Oh, Honeywell's main competitor was W.R. Sweat. Great name for a heating company. That's like right. Sweat. Oh, that's just good marketing right there. And I think the companies they merged to form the Minneapolis Honeywell Regulator Company. I don't know what year that was, but Honeywell still has the foundation in Wabash County, correct?
Yep, absolutely. Honeywell is one of our anchor institutions, and you've been to some of the venues that Honeywell owns and operates in our community, and so is really, as we talk about quality of life, truly an anchor and a driver in our county today.
Yeah, they have the Honeywell Center, which, you're talking about Wabash, Indiana. They get some pretty cool acts that come and tour through Wabash. Like, have you been, what are some of the most memorable that you've been to?
So I'm a country music fan through and through. And so I just most recently saw Shenandoah, who's a longtime country music band group, came to the Honeywell Center.
Did you take 2 dozen roses?
I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And meet and greet before. It was fantastic.
That's sick. Okay. Yeah, Shenandoah. And I feel like they get a lot of similar artists to, if people are familiar with like the Brown County Music Center, it's like those, because it's a little bit of an older population. They get some like historic, I don't know if that's the right word to say, but like some of the like legacy country acts.
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of that. And then the artists that are opening at a Ruoff, right? So we're talking Mitchell Tenpenny, Cooper Allen, some of those folks, right, that come and play at the Honeywell Center, who may be an opening act at the largest of venues, but are the main act at Honeywell Center.
Okay, so how did you end up in Wabash County?
So grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, and was going to go to a state school, right? Ball State, IU, Purdue, and then played football in high school. And after we lost, decided that I wasn't done playing football. And so started looking at smaller schools across the state that I thought I could play football at and was getting recruited to, and landed at Manchester University. And so went up to school at Manchester from 2016 to 2020, had an unbelievable experience, studied entrepreneurship and political science. And Manchester is at the root of my journey to get to Wabash County, and ultimately when I graduated, why I stayed.
Yeah, see, that's interesting. I feel like most people go to one of these rural schools, like a DePaul, a Wabash, Manchester, Trine, like all these different schools around the state. But not a lot of them end up staying in those communities. It's like, okay, I'm from Indy. I go up there, I spend 4 years, love it, have a great time. And it's like, cool. Now let's get a job in maybe Fort Wayne, or more than likely, come back to Indianapolis. What led you to stay in Wabash County?
Yeah, grateful for experiences during my time as a student, right? So was connected to the community through internships and a variety of different things. But really, my freshman year of college, fell in love with small town Indiana.
As someone from the big city, from Indianapolis, what attracted you about small town rural Indiana?
The connection to community, right? And the opportunity to get engaged and be involved. And I would say now, looking back 8 years later, that it is truly rural community's biggest competitive advantage, right? Is the opportunity for young people to get engaged early in their career, that sometimes may take longer in the big city, right?
Yeah.
Those opportunities exist, but there's just more folks after those opportunities.
And it's interesting, if you are drawn and motivated by impact, in rural communities, there is a huge opportunity for impact. And actually, so you're a graduate of Cardinal Ritter High School, and so I'm the head wrestling coach at Bishop Chatard High School. And I'm from a small town, like, similar to the size. We're a little bit smaller than North Manchester, but like in that similar fashion. I think there's a lot of overlap between like those. Again, our avid rural communities you're gonna hate this comment, but between those like private school communities in Indianapolis and between rural small towns, like the community aspect, like growing up on the west side of Indy in that small private school community, like people have each other's backs, and you end up finding a lot of similarities when you go to a small town of like, the fundraisers and the fish fry or the this, that, and the other. Like people really want to help drive their local community forward. And I don't know. I think that it's pretty cool. And I've seen a lot of, because I hated private schools. I was like, oh my gosh, private school guy, like blah, 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 blah. And then I got involved with them and I was like, wait, this kind of feels like a small town within the big city of Indianapolis. So it's not, I think it's pretty cool for you to see that about rural Indiana and then start to just dive head first. When did you get involved at the Community Foundation?
I graduated from Manchester University in 2020 and started working in business development for a large commercial construction company, started a sister commercial real estate company with a team there. And was really meeting folks across Northeast Indiana and across the region. And then kind of always had an entrepreneurial spirit through high school, started an asphalt seal coat company with a buddy, and have always kind of had different side hustles, but started in the beginning of 22 into 21, kind of my own single person consulting shop where my first client was the company I worked for right out of school. And so continued to do business development for them. But then my last client that I had through the business that I had started was with all of the cities and towns in Wabash County, the Community Foundation, and our Economic Development Group. And it was all geared around implementing the countywide comprehensive plan that was then branded Imagine 185. So we're county number 85 in Indiana. So one shared vision. The community went through a 2-year strategic planning process, and each of the cities and towns and the county adopted this as the shared vision for the future for our community. Okay.
I'm excited to dive into this. So what were the challenges identified through the Imagine 185 initiative? Like, obviously, then you have a shared vision of how to move forward, but what did they address of like, hey, these are the core issues that we're facing here in Wabash County that we need to start to chip away at?
Short answer, the rallying cry was population decline.
Yeah.
Right? But all of the different challenges that come with population decline, right? Lower enrollment in schools, the shift in a tax base, all of those things that have implications that make it hard for employers to build their business locally. And so those are uniform across rural communities a lot of times in Indiana and across the country. What I like to say, though, is our response to those challenges is hopefully what is positioning us for a different future than maybe other communities.
Yeah. Okay. So they identify the population decline. They identify brain drain and those different things. It's like you're importing several hundred students a year, probably, like for Manchester, right? Like every year as freshmen come in, over 100. I don't know. What's the class size at Manchester? Like
the total enrollment's around 1,000 on the North Manchester campus.
Yeah.
And so we're talking 250 to 350 or 400.
And I would say like the majority of them would come from outside of the county.
Absolutely.
So you have a pipeline of new people getting exposed for at least a couple years. And then it's like, how do we attract others or retain those students that we are bringing in for a short period of time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that the state of Indiana, as you guys know and have probably done podcast episodes in the past, that brain drain issue, Indiana imports students from across the country and from our existing communities. We're in the top 5 in the country for students that come to Indiana and to go to college. But then we're in the bottom 10 for retaining those students.
Yeah.
right? And so for us, it's how do we intentionally expose students while they're at Manchester University or create experiences for other college students that are in Indiana to realize the opportunities that exist in rural communities.
Okay, so this comprehensive plan was kind of put into action in 2022, I believe, right?
Yep, absolutely. Adopted in 22.
Adopted in 22. What were the first dominoes that you guys started working on? What was like, okay, and you're a consultant at this point?
Yep, at that point was a consultant that had a contract with all of the different entities and got to work alongside the community foundation at that point.
So what was the first thing you guys are working on? Like, hey, the first thing we got to go work on to put this into play is what?
Yeah, I would say that the majority of initiatives through Imagine 25 are truly investments in quality of life and quality of place, which are buzzwords, right? And so to get down into the trenches and into the weeds as much as we want, housing has been huge, right? And so a lot of different initiatives around housing. Education at all levels, right? So early childhood through adult education and everything in between has been a huge part of that. And then those quality of life amenities, right? And so whether it's working with the Honeywell Center to build out the programming that they have, or it's other organizations, companies within our community to continue to invest in the things that make Wabash County a quality place to live and raise a family.
So let's get a little more granular. Like what was the first, whether it be housing or quality of life project, like what was the first one you guys thought of on a whiteboard somewhere, had the funding for it, and then brought to life?
I'll start with a small example, right? So in Wabash County, we have a small community, the town of Lagro, and that's where I live today. Lagro is less than 400 people and has always been the poorest community in Wabash County of all of our communities.
Okay.
In 2016, 2017, local group gets together and gets a trail done. A lot of local philanthropy and leadership connects a 6-mile trail from the town of Lagro to downtown Wabash along the Wabash River. So this river trail is put in. At this time, after that trail goes in, a lot of local people that have spent their entire life in Lagro said, we're not going to see our community decline anymore. And so after that trail was built, local people, nonprofit and for-profit, started buying up old buildings, old homes, and renovating those facilities, right? And so it's created this contagious momentum to where now somebody like myself grew up in a city in the Indy metro area of 2 million people, now lives in a town of less than 400, and you have restaurants, you have businesses, and you have people that are moving from all over into the renovated houses in this community. And so was sitting one night at one of those local eateries, the 950 Speakeasy Bistro, right on the Wabash River along that river trail, and was sitting there with our former state senator, Senator Andy Zay, who's been a longtime friend of mine dating back to when I was at Manchester University. And Andy and I were like, what continues to put Lagro on the map, right? What's next for the town of Lagro? And we started thinking through, he said, you need a Hollywood sign in the town of Lagro. So truly on the back of a cocktail napkin, sketch out what it would look like to have Lagro letters, but right on 24, right? So the town of Lagro is right off US 24 that runs from Lafayette to Fort Wayne. And so as he was thinking about that, next thing you know, that napkin sketch of an idea, if you drive down 24 today, you see these letters 12, 15 feet up in the air with lights on them that spell out Lagro.
No way.
And so, as you know, driving along the highway, you see these little small green signs that have the name of a city or town as you're driving, right? And so
I just rolled over 100 towns that I've been to so far this year. I have seen 100 of those small little like green signs. Absolutely.
Yeah, but haven't probably seen like steel letters, fabricated letters up in the air with lights on them that say Lagro.
Wow.
And so we called that project Lagro and Lights, worked with the Indiana Destination Development Corporation for part of that funding, raised the other half locally in Wabash County.
Okay, what does and I don't know, this is probably public information, what does it cost to do a project like that?
Oh, I think the total budget was around $7,000 all in. Because we had a local metal fab shop that had started that we worked with, R&D Metal Fabrication. We had a bunch of local partners and organizations that all came together to make it a reality.
I don't know, $7,000 is not crazy when you think of go whatever small town it is, find your flavor of like you have to make it look appealing and attracting. Like the green signs are fine, they like a market, but if you take that much pride in your welcome, it's almost like your town's handshake to potential travelers. I think that's super cool.
Worth every dollar, right?
And not that expensive.
Not that expensive. And as we talk about rural communities later, I'm sure in innovation specifically, it's doing more with less.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's a small example of a project that early on in Imagine 185 came to fruition. Then kind of moving into larger initiatives, right? We launched another napkin sketch of an idea in a room full of local community leaders of how do we facilitate and create a comprehensive experience for college students in our community to get exposed and then hopefully move back after they graduate from college.
Okay, so what's this?
So we launched the Wabash County Fellowship Program. We just finished we're moving into our third summer of the program now. So it was a 2-year pilot program when we started. And as we were planning this 12-week kind of comprehensive summer experience where we were going to partner a company with a college student for a college internship, all with the goal of wrapping around and exposing them to everything that Wabash County had to offer over the summertime.
Wow.
What we kept running into in the room of leaders was, where are we going to house them? Like a lot of communities, housing shortage, right, for full-time residents, much less for 12 weeks out of the summertime. And so what we landed on the first summer was we worked with a local RV retailer that's in Lagro and was able to work with them to get 10 RVs that for the first year of the program, the pilot year, we had 10 college students from across the world, 4 international students, 6 students from all over the United States, colleges all over, and we housed them in RVs right on the Wabash River in the heart of downtown Wabash for a summer.
Hold on. You convinced 10 college students to move to Wabash County for the summer and live in an RV on the Wabash River.
Yep, absolutely.
And like, what local businesses did they work at?
Oh, all of our anchor employers, right? And so our longtime family companies, we had for-profit, nonprofit, marketing internships, engineering internships across the board.
Where were the people from? Like, if you could give you probably know 10 different spots. Like, where were the 4 internationals?
4 internationals would have been 2 from Colombia. We had 1 from India, and we had 1 from Pakistan.
No way. Okay, then you have 6 U.S., but not Indiana.
We had 6 U.S., some were Indiana, some weren't. We had 1 from the state of Washington that was an engineering student at Rose-Hulman. And so as we talked, we ended up with, through the application process, common application, right? And through that, we had 9 or 10 Rose-Hulman engineering student applicants for a summer engineering program in Wabash County, right? And so one of those students was from the state of Washington. We had South Bend. We had 2 that ended up being from Wabash County, but went to school elsewhere. So 1 went to school in Pennsylvania, 1 went to Taylor University.
Okay. And so that's, if you think 20% were people with prior experience or exposure to Wabash County, but the 80% had, I don't know, before this internship, if you would have given them a map of Indiana, could they have put their finger on Wabash?
No, and we surveyed them before, right? And they hadn't even been to Wabash County. 8 out of the 10 had never stepped foot in our community.
Did they sign, seal, deliver before ever stepping foot, or did they have to come and visit?
No, sign, seal, delivered before ever stepping foot in the community.
Also, shout out to them for taking a little bit of a risk.
And we knew, as you think about the type of people that choose to live in a rural community and the residents we want, it's those risk takers, right? Those are the people that move from one place to the other, or those that would be willing to make that decision.
Okay, and what did you do to make them plug into the community and feel like it was a hometown quickly?
Yeah, so the housing piece was huge, right? And that comes at no cost to the student. And so the employers are huge in that, and our community partners is what makes it work. They are walking distance, could throw a football from where they live to the YMCA, free memberships for every student, right? The Y donates memberships every year as a part of the program.
Nice.
One community partnership, right? We had some that we facilitated organically, like Honeywell Center, free tickets for the students while they're to any event, to the drive-in while they're in our community, right? And we have tailored experiences where we invite them and we have kind of a VIP experience, but then just organically, students can go to shows, right? Walking distance from the Honeywell Center. So there's things that we plan throughout the summer, and then there's things like we had a student walk into the library, and what do you need when you try and rent out a book from library is proof of address, right? Well, our students are living in an RV for the summer, don't have proof of address. And so true small town spirit, we get a phone call from the library director that says, I have so-and-so here at the library. Can you tell me kind of what's going on? They told me to call you. By the time I had hung up the phone, I get a call from the student and they're like, hey, they're giving free library memberships to any library in the county to all these students while they're here, right? And so that was just those experiences all along the summer was our community rolling out the red carpet, which is true small town fashion that you know that you get to experience across state.
Now, here's an interesting thing I want to dive into is getting everyone in the county rowing in the same direction on this. Like forecasting this vision to, hey, we're going to create this innovative rural Indiana college internship program, and we really need everyone to put their best foot forward. Who was really spearheading the initiative to organize the local community and get everyone excited about this opportunity? Because sometimes small communities don't want to grow. They don't want new people. They don't want that. How did you get everyone in alignment?
Yeah, the step one was the Imagine 185 planning process, right? So the Community Foundation and our Economic Development Group were the ones that pulled in all of our cities and towns. And a part of that planning surveyed over 1,000 residents that were a part of that, right, across the county. And so the best part, better than any initiative, any project that's in that comprehensive plan, was this spirit of collaboration and this energy for a brighter future in the county. And we always talk about how our goal is not to be Hamilton County, right? We don't want to be Fishers or Carmel. Some people like that experience. We just want to be known as a leading rural community, and that requires collaboration.
Yeah.
And so that spirit set that off. And then when I got to start the implementation work in 2022, it was just building on that collaborative spirit, right? And so when we try to organize our cities and towns or try to organize companies or our nonprofit organizations, everybody's leaning into that momentum and that experience.
Okay, one, let's just outline what a community foundation is. Because I think there are lots of, I think probably every county, I don't know if it's every county, but a lot of counties, majority of them have a community foundation. What is a community foundation?
So every county is represented by a community foundation in Indiana, and that's in large part thanks to the Lilly Endowment.
Yeah.
The Lilly Endowment outside of Indianapolis flows a lot of their grant resources through community foundations. And so that's truly what's led to a lot of community foundations starting across Indiana. And in Wabash County, ours started back in 1954. And every community foundation does a couple core things, right? And so a lot of grant making work and establishing endowment funds with donors, right? Working with donors are kind of the uniform things across the community foundation. But everything else, you meet one community foundation may have a totally different focus based on their community's need than another community foundation, right? In the community foundation of Wabash County, our mission is to create lasting impact through asset development, nonprofit capacity building, and community leadership.
Okay. I feel like when you think of like foundations, they're kind of like the VC or the investment arm of like the nonprofit community development sphere, right? Like you work with Lilly, get some funding to like, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z thing. And then through grant process and different things, you're like allocating those funds to the local change makers.
Yeah, that's one way to describe it. I will tell you that Wabash County and a lot of communities in Indiana are extremely fortunate. We are an extremely generous community. And so just for size and scale, the Community Foundation of Wabash County is in the top 3 in total asset size per capita, total grants made per capita, and total gifts into our community foundation.
Wow.
And so that speaks, you asked the question just of how is Wabash County coming together to do these things? And we're extremely generous, right?
Wow.
And so that's a huge part of the momentum and success we've seen.
Yeah.
But community foundations in general, absolutely, right? That is, they are working with their local donors, and then they're working to secure outside resources to support the initiatives within their communities.
Okay, so you put together this summer internship program. As you surveyed those first 10 students, when they're leaving Wabash County, what was their feedback on their time?
8 out of 10 had never stepped foot in the community before they showed up. By the end of the summer, 10 out of 10 said if I could find suitable housing and my employer offers me a full-time role, I would move to Wabash County, Indiana.
Wow.
And so that's, again, just a survey, right? As we look back now, 40% of students in that first class either continued on in an internship role or a full-time capacity with that employer or have since moved back for employment since they graduated.
Okay, so 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty good. I mean, obviously for a pilot program, you think about that, right?
Absolutely.
Now, here's a question. Were 2 of them the 2 that had been in Wabash County to start?
One of them has moved back. Yep.
And then the other 3 were net new Wabash. Yeah. And these are, you think about like future leaders in the community. These are future, college educated. And granted, it's like you don't have to go to college to be successful or anything like that, especially, think about trades and things like that. Yeah. But getting 3 net new college graduates that moved to Wabash County to, work at these employers, that's really, really good.
That's a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Right? As we talk about employers and talent attraction and retention, it is one piece of that focus.
And that, had enough positive momentum that you brought it back for year 2.
Brought it back for year 2, 12 students in year 2.
Yeah.
So we've had 22 students that have come through so far. And then we took a step back as we're going into our 3rd summer and said, we have Manchester University right in our backyard. And we've had a couple Manchester University students that have come through the program anyway. But this summer we'll have 20 spots in the fellowship program. 10 will be set aside for Manchester University students and 10 from college students from across the country.
Wow. So, I mean, that's pretty cool to be able, and where are they living at now? Is it still the RVs?
Not this year. So year 2, we made a transition and there's a large Airbnb in Wabash called The Sanctuary. We're fortunate to have a lot of Airbnbs across the county. But the sanctuary is an old church that was renovated into an 18-person Airbnb, right? And so we house the students year 2 in the sanctuary. And then as we move into year 3 with 20 students, it'll be a combination of housing in North Manchester in an apartment building just off of Manchester University's campus, and then the sanctuary as well.
That's awesome. Wow. Bringing 20 college students, 10 with, probably prior, like obviously they go to college in Wabash County, but then, 10 could be from wherever, could have grown up there, or could be from different areas. I think that's a really innovative, cool way. How has that been received by the community partners?
Fantastic so far, right? I mean, it's truly been the best of what why I chose to live in a rural community, stay in Wabash County, was that hospitality, right? And you've talked about that before, the Hoosier hospitality on your podcast, and highlighted leaders in communities. But I just believe what I felt in rural communities, that hospitality is more alive than maybe in other places. And we've felt that through the fellowship program is just one of those examples.
That is a super cool initiative. What did you guys model that off of? Or where did you think of the idea? And have other counties, communities across the country tried to put something similar together?
So in that very first room, right, when it was a concept napkin sketch of an idea, we had looked at a program in Detroit when Detroit was kind of seeing its revitalization. Yeah. They had a similar internship program that was around that, but was for college graduates. And so it truly was. I mean, we were picking from Fort Wayne had a program back in the day. We stole some from. We stole some from the program in Detroit. There's a program in California that we looked at. But truly, like rural communities have to do, right? It's to make it our own, right? And build it to what we can accomplish.
And it's like you don't always necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. You just have to paint the wheel to be the right suit for you, right shade for you, right?
That's right. We talk about innovation in a rural community and doing more with less, but that doesn't mean that, to your point, that you're creating something brand new.
Wow. Okay, so what other initiatives then, if you think of your time since... Because when did you become not a consultant and a full-time employee of the Community Foundation?
So I was 27 when I started at the Community Foundation, and that was a year ago. So March 3rd and so my year anniversary is today. So March 3rd of 2025.
Let's go.
Yeah, at the
was
Community
there a
Foundation.
Previous president and CEO?
Yep. So my predecessor was there for 13 years.
Oh, wow.
When she started at the Community Foundation, we were around 20 million total in asset size under management. When she was done, we had just crossed over 100 million in assets under management in under 13 years. So incredible leader.
Yeah.
Some of her work that she started that we can get into, some of our programs around education have been studied across the country, and is truly one of the best examples and mentors in my life of a leader who leans in even when the future's unknown, right?
Dude, that's so cool. Well, let's talk about some of those programs. Obviously, the Lagro and Lights. You talk about, the trail that, was private, public, putting that whole thing together. And then the internship program. What are some of the other ways and organizations you're collaborating with from the Community Foundation to make Wabash County a great place to live, to work, to raise a family, and to just be a part of?
Yeah, we'll do education and housing, and we'll go into the weeds first in education, right? Because I think those are probably two of the most important things that rural communities are working to tackle.
Yeah.
So in education specifically, the Community Foundation has done a lot of work in early childhood and in adult education, but we'll dive into the weeds of a program that we just are in our 10th school year called the Imagine Early program. And so Imagine Early is truly studied from its inception, has been studied by the University of Michigan. And that was possible to help start the program. We received a grant, the Community Foundation received a grant from the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation. Charles Mott was a founder of General Motors. And so his foundation granted to this little concept of a program in Wabash, Indiana that is now branded Imagine Early. And what it is, it's an early award scholarship program, a child savings account program where students earn scholarships, not in the 12th grade, traditionally when a high school student would apply, but from birth all the way through the 12th grade, students through completing their schoolwork, showing up to school, and their parents setting aside their own money to save for college or the trades or anything. We match that money from the community into a fund for that student to where today and where the program is, the student can earn over $3,000 to help support whatever they choose to do next after high school. And so that is a program completely separate from government funding. And truly, we've been able to sustain and endow that program from local resources and attracting outside resources in because for a rural community to have a program like that where we're truly investing money in our future, right? When we talk about population, it's not just attracting college students or retaining Manchester University college students, but it's investing in our young people so that they feel Wabash County is a place to stay.
Hey Indiana, if a new set of wheels is on your wish list, or if you're looking to reshape your current auto loan, let me point you towards Elements Financial. They take all the confusion out of getting an auto loan. You'll find low rates, minimal fees, and a process that moves fast, often wrapped up in just a couple of business days. And the best part, you can handle everything from your couch or over the phone. No scheduling time off, no branch visits, no hassle. Shopping for something new, eyeing a used car, hoping to refinance for a better rate or a smaller monthly payment, Elements has flexible loan options built to work with your budget. And because they're a credit union, their mission is helping people reach financial success. So they're genuinely focused on what benefits you. Ready to get rolling? Visit elements.org/getingear to see how much you can save. That's elements.org/getingear. Elements Financial, like a bank, only better. Subject to credit approval, federally insured by NCUA. So how does a young student earn scholarships? So I'm assuming it's like a 529 type program. And if you get, I don't know, if you complete the third grade, it's like, here's your $150 scholarship or whatever.
Yeah. So it's through truly, I mean, every grade has its own incentive, right? And the different incentives that students can earn money while they go through school. And so there's attendance every year that goes to it. There's math, there's reading proficiency, there's completing an internship that we'll roll out this year in high school, that all of those activities earn you money from the community truly investing that money that's invested with the rest of our assets so that it's growing until that student graduates and decides what they're going to do after high school.
No way. All right. I'm like looking into this now. So imagine early award scholarships. So it's a program designed to transform everyday schoolwork into opportunities. Students in grades 4 through 8 to
which
imagine
we've built out now. So we've been able to expand it from birth through 12.
To earn up to $3,000. And it's like, you have to think too, if you're in a 529, it's like the $100 that you get when you're birth, that's like going to have some compounding interest over the time, right?
And as part of our program, students can earn bonus money from us if their parent is also saving. So if the parent opens a 529, we will match that in the investment that we hold for that student along with the rest of the resources.
And you have like activities like paying taxes or budgeting or in the kitchen, cost of college, like by going in and, learning about these different things that helps them. That's really,
so there's
really
probably
cool. How many years has this been going?
We're in our 10th school year.
So do you have is there someone who started 10 years ago that is set to go off to college now?
That has persisted to college, yeah. So we had our first class that had the initial programs, 5 years of intervention, was the graduating class of 2025. And so the students that would have chose to go into the trades or go into college this past year. And so the University of Michigan studied the program from its inception, and so has been able to follow these students and will continue to follow these students to see their persistence through graduating from college. And so because of that research, we've been able to see how students, it's not just about students building money and building assets, right? It's the perception about their future and perception about building assets where the magic is made for the program.
And this is as momentum's already building. Whenever this was updated, you had 60% of the county of children were involved in this program.
It's 100% free to enroll in the program, right? And so it's open to all students. And so right now it's just making tweaks and refining the program to continue to build on it.
Whose idea was this?
So Patty Grant, my predecessor, started the program 10 years ago.
No way.
And another member of our team, Julie Garber today, who's our vice president.
And let's think about what was the initial investment that you had to be raised to endow this program to continue?
Well, we just recently, this past year, have been able to endow the program. Before that, it was huge. Our community stepped up through a campaign of the Community Foundation to raise $4 million. $2 million of that went to our work in early childhood, and an additional $2 million went to the Imagine Early program. And so that paired with the Mott Foundation funding, which was around $1 million, I believe, total since our inception with the Mott Foundation. It's truly our community has stepped up, but in order to endow it, the most exciting part was the research that the University of Michigan did, as well as our community's generosity, allowing this program to get to 10 years, attracted the attention from a national advisory group that was working with an anonymous donor that was wanting to sunset their family foundation, and they left $2 million, a one-time $2 million grant, to the Imagine Early program. We'll never know who that donor was, but that gift paired with an existing fund and a local donor has allowed us to truly have almost $7 million endowed to support the Imagine Early program for generations to come.
That is so cool. Like, I don't know. I just think that's like so innovative. And the fact that, how many graduates come out of, how many high schools are in Wabash County?
We have 4 high schools, 3 school corporations. So we talk about partnership.
4 high schools.
Program wouldn't be possible.
4 high schools, 3 school corporations?
Correct.
What are the high schools?
So we have Manchester High School, it's its own corporation, Wabash City Schools, own corporation, and then we have Northfield and Southwood that are both MSD of Wabash County.
Yes, Northfield, Southwood. You can't forget about them. Okay. And so, if any given year, those are all like 1 and 2 or 2A schools?
Yeah, we're about 350 students total that graduate in the county every year.
Okay, 350 seniors. And you think 60+% of them are getting, could be up to $3,000 plus some compounding interest. Like, that's not nothing.
Oh, no, it's significant. And the whole idea, right, is that money we know isn't going to likely pay. We know it's not going to pay for somebody's full college experience, but it can be used on textbooks, technology, tools, if it's somebody going into the trades, right? And so it's not just about the money that's there, but it's from an early age shifting the perception of students. Students that are enrolled in Imagine Early perform better on standardized test scores, have higher attendance, all of those things that are just compounding what the school and wouldn't be possible without what the schools are doing.
Okay,
right? Huge partner.
So you have Imagine Early, educate. Are there other initiatives? You've been talking about early childhood
education.
What are you guys doing there?
And so we have both school-based programs and community-based programs in early childhood. And so we formed what's called the First 5 Alliance. And so it's a collaboration of 5 childcare facilities that have some shared services, some back office, some training things that we underwrite at the Community Foundation. And then we provide operating grants to the childcare facilities to help keep down the cost of childcare that's passed on to students and families. As everybody knows that's listening to this podcast, there's no silver bullet for early childhood. And so the state of Indiana and other communities across the country, we continue to look into how we'll support early childhood long-term, because the state and the federal government funding changes have a huge impact to our early childcare providers.
And this can be a huge detriment for, if you think of like jobs that don't have flexible schedules, jobs where you have to be in the factory at 7 o'clock in the morning and you have to stay till 3 or 4 p.m. Like, that childcare perspective and lack of flexibility can be a huge barrier for families, especially in rural Indiana.
Absolutely. So, especially when we're heavy manufacturing, like a lot of rural Indiana is.
Okay. Let's talk through some of these other initiatives that you guys have really had to push forward. So education, 1. Yep. Housing. I talk to a lot of people all across Indiana. Housing seems to be a constant problem because it's, again, I've said this a dozen times on the podcast, the chicken or the egg. Are you going to, like, companies, private sector will not invest into communities that don't have the housing to support the workers that they need. And on the housing side, it's like developers aren't going to build houses where there's not a need for new homes today. Yeah. How do you guys balance that, and how do you get projects rocking and rolling?
Yeah, and by no means am I claiming that we have the silver bullet to any of these things, right? But what we try to do is build the plane while we're flying it and just make tweaks and refine it as we go, right? And so our work in the housing space back in 2024 through our Imagine 185 work and in partnership with the Community Foundation, we formed a nonprofit real estate entity called the Wabash County Development Corporation with an 11-member board. CEOs, business people, real estate, local folks all make up the board of directors for that organization. The Community Foundation provides the staff for the Wabash County Development Corporation. And really, we created that entity because we realized there were gaps in the housing space, right? And we needed a vehicle. The Community Foundation wasn't in the business of owning real estate or developing real estate, and neither were any of the other nonprofit organizations in the county. And so the mission of the Wabash County Development Corporation is to set the table better for private investment in the housing space and make it more attractive, or 2, to play developer on projects that don't make sense or that require a nonprofit to develop real estate. Right?
Okay, so what were a few of the first projects that you guys did together?
So we launched the Neighborhood Stabilization Initiative, which we, from the IHCDA, the Indiana Housing Community Development Authority, their data says that there's 1,100 vacant housing units across Wabash County.
Oh, wow.
1,100. And so the idea of the Neighborhood Stabilization Initiative was to secure these vacant properties, try and find a local developer to take them on, renovate them either into a rental or a for sale product, And then in properties that we couldn't move, the development corporation closes on it, renovates it, and sells it, right? So neighborhood stabilization, all geared around creating a housing at an attainable price point. We're talking from $125,000 to $250,000 for purchase options through this initiative. And so when everybody knows the cost of new construction, the impact that's had on the housing space, and even more so in rural communities. When we look at why people don't invest at the rate in rural communities that they do in big cities, it's because large part construction costs the same no matter where you're doing it in Indiana. But the difference is that in Fort Wayne or in Indianapolis, Fishers, Carmel, you can sell the same house for $100,000 more than you could in Wabash County, Indiana.
So your upside is significantly less, but your cost to develop and make that is the same.
Absolutely. With a larger risk, right? It's a bigger risk to invest in rural communities, which is why we created this entity, right? Was to work with private developers, but still be able to accomplish projects and take projects on that weren't attractive to a private sector individual.
Okay. So of those 1,100 vacant properties within Wabash County, how many, in the first couple of years were able to get renovated?
Yeah. So right now we are in the middle of 4 renovation projects. We've moved 9 to private developers locally to take on the renovations of, and then we've completed and sold 2 properties. The first was, I think the very first one we sold in under 48 hours to a buyer from Illinois. Wife works in the school system, husband works at Manchester University. And so it was just proof of concept that now in the last 6 months has allowed us to scale to have multiple renovations going on at the same time.
Wow. And are these like a lot of developers from out of Wabash County, or they're developers from within Wabash County?
So far, these are local people through that initiative that have taken those 9 on.
So-and-so's restoration, like does home remodels and flips and things like that within the county. They're working with you guys to renovate this and create new housing opportunities for people in the county.
Yep, absolutely.
That's super cool.
Absolutely.
And is that mostly residential, or have you guys worked on any of like the commercial side of things?
Not on the commercial side only. Another kind of lane of the Wabash County Development Corporation's focus is downtown redevelopment.
Yeah.
And so
have you read Eric Doden's book?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. This is fascinating. And I don't know if I've talked about it recently on the show, but Scott Lingle introduced me to Eric Doden. He's out of Fort Wayne, real estate guy. But what they did in Van Wert, Ohio, and this like wholesaling of rural real estate projects where, it is one building in Wabash County, not attractive to a big time developer. 2 buildings, not attractive. But when you start to really think of this bigger comprehensive plan, like this book goes into of how they're like doing, it's got to be a $50 million deal or whatever. And like sometimes it's not realistic, but the right leaders get their hands on that. It starts to get their wheels turning to think a little bit bigger.
Yeah, and I would say that's what Eric has done for Wabash County, right? I respect Eric a lot for his approach and his vision and how bold Eric is. But to your point, that's not always a reality to do a $50 million project all at one time. And maybe we'll get there someday. But in Wabash County, it really started us in our conversations with Eric down a path of the reality is there are projects that if we, and it's a big general we, right? The community doesn't pull together to fix these, no one else is coming to save our problem, right?
Yes.
And downtown is so critical to a rural community, any community, but definitely in rural America, a vibrant downtown that has a buzz to it is so important to the community's vitality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the communities that they're working in is like Richmond, Indiana.
In close partnership with the Community Foundation in Wayne County, absolutely.
Yeah. And Wayne County, for instance, is 66,000 people, and the town of Richmond is over 30,000. So like putting it together, I mean, that's the whole size of Wabash County. And you think, somewhere like Wabash is 1/3 of that. It's tough to like, make that math, but it got you guys started on this. So what are the downtown developments you guys have been working on?
So right now we've explored a variety of buildings in North Manchester and in Wabash, but are really getting into our first phase that is still not concrete yet of what buildings, how many square feet, how many apartments, commercial spaces, but in close partnership with the Honeywell Center and other to your earlier question, right, Nate, it takes everybody rowing in the same direction to pull these projects off. And so we're excited in the next couple of years to see some of these downtown renovation projects with Honeywell as a close partner come to fruition.
When you think of rural Indiana and you think of what makes small towns attractive, like when it comes to quality of life, what are the staples that every small town community needs to be thinking about when, marketing their quality of place?
We work a lot with an architect out of Fort Wayne that's done a ton of work across Wabash County, and he really goes deeper than just drawing buildings right on a piece of paper, but he talks about third spaces, how important these third spaces are within communities. And a third space is somewhere where you go to get connected to your neighbors in your community outside of work and outside of home, right? So that's space 1 and 2, but space 3 is the local coffee shop, right? The local restaurant on the river that everybody knows on a Friday night, that's where they're going to go to listen to karaoke or sing karaoke. It's the Honeywell Center, right? It's places in your community that you can go to be around other folks and build up that community spirit, that connection to the place you call home.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the third spaces around Wabash County that are just rocking and rolling?
So we're the Honeywell Center, like we've talked about,
Yeah.
And then Eagles Theater, which Honeywell owns and operates. They also have a variety of other properties, but the Honeywell Center is an anchor in downtown Wabash. So we talk about all of the restaurants, coffee shops, the other third spaces that have spun off, because Thursday through Saturday, Honeywell's bringing in 80% of their ticket buyers are from outside of Wabash County. Right.
Wow.
And so that helps some of these businesses sustain their normal local traffic when Honeywell is driving that amount of people into our community. We talk about the 950 Speakeasy at the other end of the trail, 6 miles, right, is one of those spaces. I would say the trail itself, right, the amount of people that are on the trail along the Wabash River, kayaking the Wabash River, all of these experiences because of our natural amenities are also third spaces.
That's really interesting. I think a lot of times, smaller communities are like, okay, we just bring in a brewery and all of our problems are solved. I think I said that in the Lingle episode. And it's like that's a portion of it, but it's also like getting this community feel to not just talk about how it's a small town and we all have each other's back, but to be about it. Like go out and spend your dollars with the local places. Go out and, spend Thursday nights listening to live music or eating dinner somewhere or walking the trail or kayaking or whatever it is. Like, how do you guys promote and encourage your local residents to get out and be the best possible community members they can be?
Yeah, we're extremely fortunate to have Visit Wabash County, who's our Tourism and Visitors Bureau, which I would guess every county in Indiana has some form or fashion of that. I will say that Christine Floor and her team at Visit Wabash County have really leaned into what I call our chief marketing agency for Wabash County. They tell our story, not just to attract visitors. Her famous line is, it all starts with a visit, right? And so while we're trying to attract tourism because that's where future residents come from, she truly does a great job of highlighting, cultivating experiences, and telling the story of those different amenities, whether it's the spaces or the businesses, or it's those outdoor amenities. And they're cultivating these experiences that draw people from all over to come and experience Wabash.
How do you balance all of the different initiatives that are going on, from housing to commercial development, to education, to, we haven't even talked about like the philanthropy and the charitable part. So this is something to realize, and I get feedback for this a lot. Like nowhere in Indiana and nowhere in America is perfect. There's no utopian society where people don't have struggles and challenges that they're facing. Disagreements. Like, it's unrealistic to think that everywhere in the world is Mayberry, right? And so, you think about, whether it be unemployment or low income or just these different challenges, how are you guys coming together to solve some of those problems to help out your local community members?
Yeah, Nate, the word that comes to mind for Wabash County's legacy, right? We think about the history of innovation, the history of stewardship and generosity, the history of collaboration. Those of us that are rowing in the same direction today, we're not the first to be doing that, right? In our community and in Wabash County. And to your point, it is not all sunshine and roses in our community, no different than other places, right? We've had the renewable energy disagreements. We've had the school consolidation disagreements. All of these kind of hot button topics that rural communities are facing across the country. We've gone through those things and are always out the other side. And I truly believe the hard part today, and you know this, but 90% of the things that rural communities are working on, generally, most residents would agree with. But the problem is the 10% that we don't get 90% of the attention, right? From local media, from other media. And so we've just really tried to work in the 3 words for us, right, are stewardship, innovation, and collaboration, right? Those, if we stick to those values, truly approach our work every day, we're just the people in the shoes today that are doing this work. the people before us set the precedent, and that's our role, just to make sure that this can continue forward.
When you think about the average resident of Wabash County, like, and let's say they might not be a community leader, they might not be, someone with a really big position or title. What are the challenges that they're facing? Like, what are the challenges if you put yourself in the shoes of, the average 30-year-old in Wabash County that probably has a family? What are they worried about?
I would say they're worried about a lot of the same things. They want to live in a safe community, right? And hopefully we pride ourselves. We have a lot of other issues, right, that small rural communities face when it comes to safety, but incredibly safe community, right? They're worried about education. They want to make sure that their kids have a quality experience to education from the time that they're born, with early childhood all the way through school, right? A lot of our residents, I think about some of my neighbors in Lagro, right? I have some of my neighbors that have never graduated from high school before, but what are those resources that we can plug them into to get their GED, right? And continue to climb and earn more money at whatever role or job they have within the community.
What are some of the issues that you see and some of the challenges that you're like, hey, we can solve this? Like, we could solve getting everyone in Wabash County their GED or high school diploma equivalency. Like it would be hard and it would take some buy-in on, their sides. Like, you can't do it all for them, but like with a budget and some initiative, like that's something that's solvable. Or, I mean, we just had, and I know there's a partnership here that I want to talk about. We just had Casey Kraus on.
Oh, yeah.
From New Shoe Day, and he talked about doing some work with you guys.
On the New Shoe Day partnership, the Imagine Early program, right? We talked about that, and we were sitting around our table and thinking, how are we going to get students excited about the program, re-engage students and get them excited? So what's exciting to a fourth grader, right? Or to a fifth grader. But then we were thinking, how are we going to continue to try and get more students enrolled in the program? One of the things through the University of Michigan's research, we know that the impacts of our program are especially effective on low-income students and low-income families. And so right around the same time we were sitting around the table thinking through what that might look like for Imagine Early, Casey Kraus reaches out, definitely a God thing, right? Sends me a note out of the blue. Casey and I went through the Mitch Daniels leadership program together. And Casey said, hey man, just want to connect, right? And it was at that moment with my team that we jumped on a Zoom with Casey and said, hey Casey, I know what you're doing at New Shoe Day. Talk to us a little bit more about that. But what does it look like if we put every Imagine Early student, do an enrollment campaign, enrollment push, but by a deadline, if we put every Imagine Early student in a free brand new pair of shoes, right? We know that there's a lot of families, low-income students and low-income families, that may attract them to the program. And if that's what gets them in the door, but it opens up to the $3,000 that students can earn, but at the very least, students get excited.
And it's a great idea. So putting a new pair of shoes on a kid, one, like it or not, the idea of, in 10 years, your college fund is going to be at $3,000. Like, that's great for future me, but today it's like when my great grandma used to buy me savings bonds for Christmas, and it was like, in 7 years this will be $50, and it's like, well, thanks, Grandma, but I can't buy any candy with that today. And it's like, hey, you're getting this thing that a lot of especially low income, having this new pair of shoes that's in a box that that sense of pride and fulfillment. You get that today, and in 10 years or 3 years or 5 years or whatever that number is, you're going to have this other piece from the Imagine Early program. It does seem like a match made in heaven there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the record enrollment for us as a part of the program, put almost 1,000 students, because we did specific grade levels of Imagine Early students, but we put almost 1,000 students in a free brand new pair of Under Armour shoes. Received all types of stories and messages. We had a local bus driver for one of our school corporations reached out and just shared a story of what a student coming onto the bus shared with their brand new pair of shoes and how excited they were to show her that pair of shoes, but then also just mentioned what that student's home life might be like, or what it was like when they're dropping that student off every morning or picking that student up, and just the confidence that student had, right? That's Casey's whole thing for New Shoe Day, right? Stepping into their future with confidence, and the impact of what new shoes can do aligned really well with Imagine Early.
And that's something where you talk about coming from a place like Indianapolis, the problems aren't that different. The problem, like there's some different ones that rural Indiana faces, but the idea of like children having, clothing, housing, safety, security, all of that stuff, so important. And when you get to a place like Wabash County with 30,000 residents, and if you, divide that by whatever, you think, how many children are there? How many kids under 18 are there in Wabash County?
Oh man, you're
like less than 10,000, right?
Oh, right.
Like there are less than 10,000 kids. It's like, if we all row in the same direction, you could, in the next decade or 2 decades, like make it the best place for children in the world, in Indiana, you know?
We talk about opportunity for impact in rural counties, right? You asked what attracted me to stay in a rural community. Think about, yes, there's the opportunity to get involved and make an impact, but because we're not in a big city of hundreds of thousands of people or millions of people, there's little actions that we can take that have huge impact on the scale because we're not doing things that impact tens of thousands of residents, right? We're talking a county of 30,000 people that it's manageable, right? We can wrap our arms around it. And that paired with the generosity in the county, the possibilities have been endless.
I don't want to talk about that, right? You think there's 92 counties in Indiana and, you know, some of them have done a great job of bringing youth and vibrance and forward progress, and other places have had a difficulty. And a lot of that comes from, you know, local leaders reimagining things and local leaders, you know, being innovative and, you know, maybe, I don't want to say taking risks, but like, you know, championing forward new initiatives. And some of them will listen to this, and there'll be mayors and there'll be community leaders and different people across rural Indiana. If you were picked up today and planted in southern Indiana, let's say the middle of let's say Orange County, right? You're down in Orange County, southern Indiana, and they do a great job. They have a lot of stuff down there. So actually, we're going to say an unnamed county. You were just picked up and planted somewhere new and said, hey, we have these similar issues to rural Indiana. What would you start to do to think innovatively and attract more people, inspire locals, and increase the quality of life in rural Indiana?
I'll just lean back on the 3 values that we try and hold at the Community Foundation and in Wabash County, right? Stewardship, collaboration, innovation. All of those 3 things, in order to achieve any type of innovation or momentum in the community. A mentor of mine when I graduated from Manchester University taught me the value of, and everybody talks about relationships, right? Business about relationships. I was fortunate my first job out of college, being in business development, every meeting I walked away with 3 people to go meet next, right? And then I left those meetings with 3 more people. And that's what's so special about Wabash County, Northeast Indiana, and really I believe the state of Indiana, is that people are willing to make those connections and invest in the next generation of young people. And that was huge for me in my career, but I believe is at the true base and foundation of effective work, right? And so if I was picked up and dropped off somewhere else, the first thing you have to do to build collaboration, have innovation, anything like that, is you have to have relationships. And that's not something in rural Indiana you can fake, but having the relationship equity to pull the right people around the table, get them to say yes and lean in to this broader vision is important.
And I think that it starts, I have to assume if you're the headline employer in rural Indiana, you know, the softball team, the baseball team, the football team, the band, the boosters, the this, that, everyone's coming and it's transactional. They're like, will you sponsor our thing? Will you write us a check? You're made of money, sponsor this thing. And I think that if you're going to be a real community leader, is you need to go in there and build some non-transactional relationships and then figure out what the leadership or what the decision makers within XYZ employer, what they're worried about, what kind of impact do they want to make? You know, let's say you have an executive team at one of the major employers in your county, and you know, you start to chat with them and they're like, yeah, I can't believe that, you know, kids in our community don't have enough shoes. And then you go out and find the innovative solutions. Maybe you get some other community partners involved and you bring together this like, hey, what if there was this organization that we knew about that could help us inspire confidence as our students step into the future? And you bring that to them versus, hey, I need $10,000 for this, you know, this general thing today. Like getting bought in on what kind of impact and the legacy they want to leave. I think that not thinking about it in a transactional way is super important.
No, absolutely. And what I would guess that major employer, I'm thinking of ours, right? And the leaders in our community. And so down in Southern Indiana or anywhere else, they want that community in order for their business to be successful and ultimately them to be successful. They have to have employees, right? And they have to have employees that are healthy, that are focused while they're at work. And so truly to your point, for it not to be a transaction, what is important to them? What are they hearing from their employees? And how do we tackle that, right? And so the engagement process of comprehensive planning, there's engagement fatigue. Lilly requires planning a lot of times for their grants. Other grant requirements do the same thing. And so a lot of people think that's just a check of a box. Yeah. But what's been effective for us in Wabash County is for the solutions, when we're hearing the problem, let's hear that from our residents or from our stakeholders, develop a solution, and it'll be a heck of a lot easier to get people to buy into that solution.
And I think that momentum is contagious. So you think about a $7,000 project of the Lagro Hollywood lights. Like, you could probably find a private individual to write the check for that. Like, and if you're a leader in the community and you can't find a $7,000, like, again, like do some introspection there of like how you can make that happen. Because yes, the Lagro sign, it might not be the biggest, most fancy project, but it makes a huge impact. And you start to build more credibility, and you start to be like, hey, we're people who get stuff done. And your $7,000 project turns into a $70,000 project, turns into a $700,000 project that gets you to a $7 million project, a $7 million endowed program that like helps with education. But you have to build momentum. And I think that's the other thing community members get maybe annoyed with, where it's like a lot of talk, not a lot of action. And it's like, I don't know, you drive down, is it 24?
Yeah.
You drive down 24, you're a local resident, like that's $7,000 that people see every day, every week as they're driving through. That makes them proud to be in this community, proud to be a part of Wabash County. So I think getting the ball rolling on momentum and not just trying to go after this huge, like we got to raise $7 million to do this big thing on day one. And it's like, I mean, this work started 10 years ago. Like to get that to a point where it's now a 10-year program that can be endowed at $7 million, like, you had to start that with just a few students and a couple nickels back 10 years ago.
Yeah, we a lot of our community leaders, our team at the Community Foundation, and most leaders in communities today, right? And this is very general, but it's the most simple thing. Our job every day is to identify a concept, a problem, develop a concept for a solution, move that along to where all it's missing is money, right? So through due diligence, through design, cost estimating, all these things, identify resources for that project, secure the resources, implement the project.
Okay, what are interesting local funding opportunities, or maybe not even local, but what are funding sources that people should be thinking about if you are a community leader in rural Indiana?
Yeah.
Like obviously, like everyone talks about the Lilly Endowment, and I'm working on doing an episode with them. I think would be super impactful to the state of Indiana.
Absolutely.
But like you can't just like, submit a random thing and they're just going to write you a check. Like it takes a little bit more of a process and, an application and the whole 9 yards there. But what are these funding sources that people in rural Indiana can be leaning into?
Yeah, I'll give you a very specific example and a story that started in 2015. The town of North Manchester received an Office of Community and Rural Affairs, OCRA, planning grant to develop a downtown plan. The number one project in that downtown plan was a riverfront development in downtown North Manchester. 2018, 2019, Imagine 185's countywide comprehensive planning process is starting. We still don't have a park in downtown North Manchester. And so what is the top priority from residents in Imagine 185? A downtown riverfront park in North Manchester. So through those two planning efforts, right, with Imagine 185, and Lily supported the planning effort and founding of Imagine 185, right? We've now identified this project. Local resources, local people start to get behind the project, building this momentum. And then the Lilly Endowment announces the College and Community Collaboration Initiative, right? And so we're able to partner with Manchester University. And because of all of that engagement work and prioritization and local buy-in about this project, we have a great foundation to turn around an application to Lilly that allowed us to secure $12.1 million total. But specifically, there's a $10 million with local match riverfront park called Eel River Commons that will break ground this year in the town of North Manchester. So we're talking 11 years later before we had the funding, and still are trying to get even more funding to make that park better, right? And that project move forward to where now in 2028, the residents of North Manchester will have this $10 million park in downtown North Manchester because we identified a concept from engagement, moved it along to where all it was missing was money, identified an opportunity, secured the funding, and now we're in implementation.
Yeah, College Town's got a ton of love from this college and like the 4 C's or whatever it was, right?
The College Community Collaboration Initiative.
Yeah, college community. Yes, exactly that. And I mean, we've talked to, oh my goodness, we were in Muncie talking with the mayor and the president of Ball State. We've had the presidents of Wabash and DePaul on talking about Crawfordsville, talking about, Greencastle. I mean, I think Butler has it. Like, I think almost every college town in Indiana, like, would have been silly not to take advantage of this funding source.
Yeah, 18 or 19 were funded.
And I don't even know how many colleges.
I think there were 30 some that were eligible.
Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a huge impact. When you think of other creative funding sources across the state that people, that these rural communities should be leaning into? Like, what are the organizations? What are the funding sources? Or like creative ways they've like crowdsourced maybe from local residents?
Yeah, I mean, they're the most, what I'll call simple, low-hanging fruit. Patronicity through the Indiana Housing Community Development Authority is a crowdfunding platform where local people can jump on for $5, $10 and support a local project. You raise $50,000, you get $50,000.
Yeah, we used that for when we did, I'm from Bourbon, we did like a whole Bourbon for Bourbon campaign where we did, if you hit a certain level of donation, you got gifted like a bottle of like ultra rare bourbon that we partnered with Rare Saint, which is St. Elmo's Distillery. Yeah. And it was like, we generated like $37,000 or $27,000 in, a couple weeks through
Patronicity.
Patronicity, yeah.
And the dollars are helpful, right? Just obviously to support whatever project, but that local buy-in and people having ownership of being a part of a project is more powerful, right?
Yes.
And so I joke with our community that I feel like sometimes we're the Patronicity capital of Indiana with all the different Patronicity campaigns we've had. But the most unique are our local Main Street and Chamber in North Manchester Alive, went through a Patronicity campaign, sold their office, bought this old vacant downtown building and renovated the first floor to truly be a mini mall concept to when you walk in, there's 8 individual storefronts. They're the tenant, right? So they're managing all of these small businesses that have started, maybe downsized, but maintained a downtown presence, wanted to dip their toe into the market in North Manchester. And it's completely full, and it's been completely full, right? Unique businesses, a barber, haircut place, financial advisor, shops, all different types of things.
That would have been
right?
great for Jansen when he was starting.
Yep, absolutely.
With Chills. We did an episode with him, if anyone remembers. Like, this is one of the quickly becoming like biggest attractions, I would say, in Wabash County. Obviously, the Honeywell Center. But people travel from all across the country to get ice cream in North Manchester at Chills. Like, it's wild what the like viral fandom that Jansen has built.
Yeah, through TikTok, social media, right?
Yeah.
Through social media.
And like, I feel like locals are probably like, oh, that's just like the ice cream joint. And then you see someone that drives like 12 hours to get his ice cream. And he is just the best dude. Like, genuine, great person. And he just opened his second location, I think, in Fort Wayne, which is sick.
Roanoke.
Yeah. Oh, Roanoke?
Just outside of Fort Wayne in Roanoke, I believe.
Oh, wow. That's
Maybe I'm
awesome.
wrong. Maybe it is Fort Wayne.
So cool. Okay. Do you have final advice for rural community leaders on how they can start to take steps forward to building the best possible community?
I would say don't get caught up in the disagreements, right? Don't get caught up in the 10%, right? Get the 90% of things you agree on, use that, right? And inject energy, again, stewardship, collaboration, innovation, taking the role of it's not about me, right? Setting ego aside for a second and realizing that there were people before you in your community and there'll be people after you, and you have been tasked with a leadership role to steward whatever it is for folks, right? And so that kind of stewardship approach to be at the root of everything, working with residents, engaging residents at a deep level, and it sounds surface level, but it's truly important to all of those different funding opportunities or to make a project, get buy-in in a project, and then think outside the box in innovation, right? Yeah. Doing more with less, because that's what we're all doing every single day in rural communities, is trying to do more things, whether it's state funding cuts, wherever else, with less resources.
Doing more with less. I love that. When you think about the headlines in Wabash County in 20 years, in 2046, what do you hope people across the state of Indiana are reading about Wabash, Indiana in 2046?
The leading rural county in the state, right? When I get asked all the time, well, we don't want to grow. We don't want this progress. We don't want to be these big places. It's like us either, right? We want to be known as the place people know in rural Indiana for opportunity. Right, that people want to raise their kids and their families in Wabash County because there's a lot to do for a rural community of our size, and there's a lot of opportunity for young people.
I love that, man. This has been so fun, very enlightening. We've come to the final portion of the show where we get to talk all things Indiana. So this question is brought to you by our friends at JC Hart. They're a leader in creating enjoyable living experiences at apartment communities all across Indiana and beyond. Check them out at homeisjchart.com. My question for you, Alex: why do you call Indiana home?
I think it goes back to when I talked early in my career about how people in Indiana, Northeast Indiana, Wabash County, we are open to supporting the next generation of leaders, right? And you've talked about that on this podcast, but truly, I believe every day we invest in our young people, right? We pour into our young people, whether it's advice, whether it's connections, relationships. I think that's special to Indiana.
Who leads Visit Wabash County?
Christine Floor.
Christine says it starts with a visit.
Yep.
Starts with so if someone were planning a visit to Wabash County for a weekend, what's the itinerary?
So definitely a show at the Honeywell Center, right?
Yep.
That's extremely important. I would say kayaking down the river or hiking through Salmoney if you're a kayaker, you prefer hiking and checking out the Wabash River Trail. And then truly my favorite go-to spot is in the town that I live in, right? The 950 Speakeasy, live music every weekend, karaoke every weekend, just a great spot right on the Wabash River.
Heck yeah. I love, okay, what's like where are you wake up after a night at the 950 Speakeasy, where are you getting breakfast at?
The Firehouse Cafe, Station 1 Firehouse in Lagro. Again, another restaurant, right? The retired fire chief and the old fire station opened up a breakfast spot that's really good.
Oh, that's so cool. And I would say, like, people probably don't think of like vacationing or spending a weekend in Wabash County, but with Airbnbs and different things like that and the show at the Honeywell Center, like that could be a fun weekend for sure.
Yeah.
Getting out, I mean, I love, nothing beats like when you're on a kayak, maybe a couple beverages, like summer day. Come on, sign me up. Well, because we're coming. We've already made the establishment. We're gonna come and spend a weekend or spend a few days up in Wabash County, and we're gonna have to learn all the local spots.
Yeah, and we'll highlight a lot of the construction projects that we talked about and some we didn't, right? To show you guys firsthand what's going on.
Absolutely.
In the community.
You're gonna find us on our journey to 1,000 towns across the state of Indiana. You're gonna find us in Wabash County, visiting North Manchester, Wabash, Lagro, Fountain,
Rowan,
La Fountain. Spelled like La Fontaine, but pronounced in typical Indiana fashion. Pronounced La Fountain.
Correct.
Similarly to Milan, pronounced Milan, not Milan. Come on. All right. What's your favorite Manchester University tradition?
A lot like how Bloomington and Indiana University has the Little 500. Manchester University has May Day. Is kind of the weekend with mud volleyball and trike races and all these different things, right?
Yeah.
But was really a great time and have a lot of memories from May Day weekend, from my time with my best friends today from Manchester University.
Heck, I mean, every college has their, like we at DePaul, we had our own Little Five. Purdue has Grand Prix. Like everywhere has something where they're racing some sort of thing, or there's some sort of competition that it's built around, and it's electric. Like no better place to be in the spring than like whatever that weekend is for your college. If there is a 22-year-old out there listening to this podcast and is trying to figure out where they want to go in life, pitch them Wabash County.
Truly, I mean, I feel like I have been able to sit at tables I don't belong at, work on things I don't have any business working on. I was never the smartest, most athletic, most talented person in college or any room I was ever in, but I believe Wabash County in rural Indiana has the opportunity to get involved and make an impact right away. Yeah. Right? Even from my time as a student, but definitely right away. And I believe our biggest competitive advantage in Wabash County is our human capital and then obviously the generosity to truly have resources to make that impact.
Bang. If you are an impact-driven 22-year-old and you want a place where you can plug in and start to make an impact right away, Wabash County could be your answer.
That's right.
Come on. All right, these are the same 3 questions we ask every guest who comes on the show. First, Alex, if you could shout it from the rooftops all across America, across the globe, everywhere, what's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
Broken record, Indiana's a place of opportunity.
Amen. Like tons of opportunity. All right. Now, this question is your opportunity to shed some light on a part of the state that more people need to know about. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
You've got to come check out the town of Lagro.
Okay.
Right. The town of Lagro, less than 400 people. The local people bought in. Outside people have bought in. A community that the trail changed everything. Right.
Yeah.
So if people don't think trails are important, come check out the town of Lagro. We'd love to show you. Other than that, I take a quarterly trip to another small town in Indiana, spend the weekend there, and my favorite trip so far has been Madison, down in Madison, Indiana.
Wow. You take a quarterly trip to another small town in Indiana. Okay. Where all have you been?
Oh, geez. That's my top ones that I've been to.
Yeah.
I love Rushville.
Oh,
Town of Rushville.
They have that historic old hotel. Like in downtown Rushville, they're really well known. And that's a place where they were vibrant and thriving, and like a bypass, like the interstate, like really cut them off of things. So Rushville is interesting. Okay.
A lot of great local community leaders that are helping Rushville now.
Yeah.
Right? Rushville's great. Obviously, everybody likes Nashville, Indiana. I think Nashville, Indiana is beautiful, and I really enjoy going down there. Madison's fantastic. Auburn, Indiana has a lot going on too.
Yeah.
That's up in my part of the state.
DeKalb County?
Yep, DeKalb
Yeah,
County.
we're going up there for the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Fest, like their big Labor Day festival. Wow. So what did you love about Madison?
Stayed in the hotel that's the old cotton mill right on the river. And I really feel like there's a lot of similarities between downtown Wabash and downtown Madison. We're both close to a river. Their difference is their river's probably 5 to 10 times wider than the Wabash River and deeper. So that's a lot of opportunity. But also their main street, it's all on one street, and it's probably 5 times longer than our kind of core downtown Main Street is. And so it was just really neat, and love all the shops and the restaurants and different things in Madison. It's beautiful.
I'm excited. We're headed down there in April, and I've talked about it, but I haven't been before. So I'm really excited to go down there. We're going to like the mayor's or assistant mayor's conference. And then I think I'm going back again in July for Regatta. That is like Madison's thing.
That's their thing.
That's their Super Bowl. The
I've
Indy
not
500.
been there during July.
I've heard it's the move. Okay. Yeah. Finally, this is your chance to highlight someone else in Indiana and give some love to them. So we identify new podcast guests or just really inspiring people. Who's a Hoosier we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
And you all talked to him, so I'm sorry I can't give you a new guest. But Mayor Chris Jensen in Noblesville, little bit, obviously a lot different, the city of Noblesville, than anything up north and in rural communities. But he just I respect his leadership, his vision, what he's done in Noblesville to truly steward that work forward in the community. But also, he has such a great understanding of rural communities and some of the challenges that rural communities. You can tell he's invested in different leaders, and he spent time in rural Indiana. Yeah. And so I really think a lot of Mayor Jensen, and I'm excited to watch him continue to lead.
Everybody loves Mayor Jensen. He is just a vibrant personality. He is awesome. We're actually going to have him on the show at some point in the next couple months. So stay tuned for that episode. It'll be really fun. Alex, it's been a pleasure learning all about the innovative history and current innovations that are happening in Wabash County. The way that everyone has come together to be a generous and innovative population that is just pushing the ball forward of what it means to be at the top of rural Indiana. Again, the fact that Wabash is making its circles in the Indianapolis and Central Indiana business community, and people are talking about all the innovative things happening there, like that is really cool. And that's obviously, being in conversations doesn't totally move the needle, but it's a start, and it gets people thinking, more innovative. And I hope that other local leaders hear this podcast and create some more competition for you. And they're going to be inspired to help drive all of Indiana forward. Because rising tide lifts all ships. Like you guys are doing innovative things. And I hope that other leaders that hear this are inspired to, whether they want to have a summer intern program or real estate redevelopment, like we do need to continue to push the ball forward at all levels. And I love that Wabash is leading the charge when it comes to community foundation work and just stewarding rural Indiana. So thank you for being a guest. Thank you for your passion that you're putting into Wabash County. And I love the fact that you go to a quarterly new small town. Like that's incredible, man. Keep up the good work. If people want to, maybe share the internship program with their kids, people they know that are looking for innovative internships. Where can they do that? Where can they learn more about Wabash County, and where can they find you?
Yeah, Google Wabash County Fellowship Program, and there'll be a link that Visit Wabash County does all of our marketing for the program on their website. Truly, Visit Wabash County has the most information about how to stay in Wabash County at any of our Airbnbs, the hotels, the experiences. The Thrive in Wabash County podcast. So we've launched our podcast just highlighting local stories to local people. Yeah. And so they can look up that on all podcast platforms. But truly, Visit Wabash County is our chief marketing agency on all social media. You can find the information there.
Absolutely. I love it, man. Keep up the good work, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nate.
This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all my gear recommendations at Sweetwater. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.